Hello, all, and welcome to the movie. Actually, I'm going to re-record that because it dinged twice, so I don't know when the audio actually started. So
False start.
false start. Like it said live in the corner, but it made the little beep like twice. I'm like, what the hell?
Start.
All right.
20-second penalty.
Hello, all. Welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by hunky, hairy, huggable homos who love film to discuss movies and dish up some movie news. As usual, I'm joined by my phenomenal co-host, Jim Poliafco. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, thank you, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And, of course, Will Lindis is here as well. Welcome, Will.
Guys, I am so glad to be here with you right now.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and we are here. And welcome. Oh, good God.
Yeah.
My mouth isn't working this late, apparently.
Oh, wait. Yeah, just taking a moment to let
What I meant to say
my
is, we're glad to be here too, of course.
We are recording later than normal because my work schedule got whacked up at the last second. So, Will, thank you for your flexibility. And we already have like 5 people hanging out with us, so maybe we should be recording later. I don't know. But big show this week. We're going to be reviewing Zootopia, the new animal-fueled flick from Disney that's got the furry community aflame right now.
Animal
Flutter?
fueled? I've got this terrible image of just like this broiler and just Brad just tossing cats in it.
Animal fuel?
Not cats, but like pick up Officer Hops and like throw her in the fuel
Oh
tank.
my god.
It's bunny. It's bunny violence.
This is brutal, guys. This is brutal. Not at all appropriate for a wonderful little kids movie.
I know, right? And of course, we've got some movie news coming at you too. But Jim, it is good to have you back with us. Unfortunately,
Yeah. I've been here the whole time.
You were not able to join us for our special review. Oh my gosh, interview that we did last week with Anna Maria Leonte from Star Wars: The Force Awakens. We had an awesome interview with her. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that yet, we haven't been able to do like an internet push yet. That's coming, but the episode is up and live. Jim, did you have a chance to listen back to the interview?
I definitely listened to it. I thought it was awesome. I was, I feel bad that I had to miss that episode, but apparently I only live for Mondays, so I mean, I'm here Mondays and no other day of the week, and you guys had to record that on another day at another time, and didn't line up with my schedule, unfortunately. But you guys were amazing, and she was an amazing guest, and just to be able to talk to somebody who actually worked, as one of the actors on Star Wars and The Force Awakens was great. What's really sad though is, I guess her character didn't fare so well in that scene she was in. So I don't know. I guess we're hopefully we'll see her in other projects. Let's just say that.
That's very true. Like, it's one of those things where I guess spoiler for that movie, but her character doesn't go very far. But it was a fun interview, Jim. We know we said it at the time, but you were 100% with us in spirit, and I don't just mean that from like the aw shucks we like Jim, but also from the perspective of, as I was going through the questions, as Brad was going through the questions, at least I know for me, I was thinking like, what would Jim ask right now? And so I was trying to kind of channel your interview prowess.
I was asking as I was listening in the car.
It's why aren't they asking this? God.
And then we'd ask it, and he's like, "Them's my boys."
Oh, I like that.
Typically.
Well, Anna Maria was phenomenal. I think that's one of the most awesome interviews we've had a chance to do. It was great hearing her talk about her experiences working with J.J. Abrams and being in the desert scene with John Boyega and Oscar Isaac and Chris. I mean, phenomenal stuff. She has
hearing a little bit about her how she came about the role was particularly interesting to me, and just that whole thank you letter, and she thought that that a part had passed her by, but she she read in a book that you should write thank you notes even when you don't get jobs, and bam, there you go.
You end up working on Star Wars eventually.
I know, crazy.
So yeah, so definitely check out that interview. It is our Star Wars: The Force Awakens interview with Anna Maria Leonte, available in iTunes, Stitcher, and soon to be available on our website. But guys, enough dilly-dallying, enough stalling. Are you ready to talk some movie news? Are we ready to go there?
Yes!
We've got some movie news.
Yeah.
All right, and here we go. Movie news. All right, so Will, why don't you kick us off? What's got your interest this week?
So yeah, the movie news I've got is actually more story or book news than anything else, but it's connected to our show. Damn it, I promise. So there's this little movie coming out later this year in November called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This is another film set in the Harry Potter universe, although not starring like all of the characters that we've know and love from that particular series. It's set in 1920s New York and really showcases like what happens in like the United States in this magical world. So this is one that's got me interested, especially considering like it's a return to the cinematic universe I love so much. It's got Eddie Redmayne, who is such a hit or miss actor. Like it's going to be entertaining to see how he does. But what's the news that's come out this week is in kind of the ramp up to all of this, J.K. Rowling has announced over at Entertainment Weekly that she was going to do a new series of 4 short stories called The History of Magic in North America. These are all going to premiere on the Pottermore website, which is the kind of the fan. Not just fan site, but just kind of the fan universe online for it. The first one debuts on March 8th, and then a new story each day through the rest of this week. So probably by the time you're listening to it, these stories will be out there. There's a story about the wizard school in the United States. There's a story about skinwalkers, the Native American legend. There's a story about the Salem witch trials. And then one about the U.S. version of the Ministry of Magic. So I'm excited about this because while this isn't exactly movie news, it's a bunch of things I'll be reading. This is going to get me really excited for a movie that I am going to see in theaters here in just a few short months, that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. So I'm super jazzed. Brad, I know you are also a Potter fan. How does this news strike you?
Oh, you know what? As a Potterhead, I mean, I absolutely love this news. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, it's perfect.
I am overjoyed at this news. I mean, I know the Harry Potter books, I mean, for a while at least, were totally, like, done. Like, that was it. I guess the screenplay for the, not screenplay, but the script for the new play, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, is going to be released as an ebook. So not written as a novel, it's just the script. So I was like, wow, that's really cool. I'm excited for that. But in a way, I'm I don't know, almost more excited to get these brand new, like, all original tales. I've always wondered, like, what's going on, with the U.S. Like, how, there's got to be wizards in the U.S. They're referenced sometimes. Like, how does that world work, and what's that all about? And as long as it's not too, like, political, I think it'll be good. But I'm so tired of politics right now. I could spit fire. So. Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm excited to read these stories, and I trust J.K. Rowling to create amazing content. So I'm gonna have to, like, get my Pottermore login in order because I forgot my password. No, I know my password, but they assign you, like, these stupid random, like, screen names when you create your account, and mine was like Griffin Witch 129833 Snape 04s. It was so weird. I'll have to
look like a Griffin Witch 3903 Snape 24.
Right?
I look at you and I think, like, that's got to be your screen name.
I'm going to change my name on Growler, actually, now that you say that. So, yeah. Anyway. Jim, you're not like a super Harry Potter fan at all, but
No.
are you interested in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? If not these stories?
I'll be interested in it as I am with any new, any kind of new series. I don't know. I mean, obviously Harry Potter was written as kind of a children/young adult series, right? And I saw the movies. I didn't read any of the books, so I wasn't that much into it. But do we know what the flavor of the new book series is going to be? I assume there's going to be. You said 4 books, Will, right? So I assume there's
4 like short stories.
Oh, 4 short stories. Okay. And do we know film-wise what might be planned from those, or do we not know?
The only thing that we really know film-wise is this the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is actually based on supplementary material that she's already released. And it really explores this one particular dude named Newt Scamander, or Scamander. It sounds like a Pokemon. And his adventures in New York in like the 1920s. So it's an older character. I mean, we're used to seeing like a bunch of kids in a school, right? And this time our lead is someone who's Eddie Redmayne's age. So it's definitely going to be slightly different in flavor.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I'd be interested in hearing about this and seeing how it develops. Definitely, we'll see the movie this year, and we'll see what happens. And I think you said it was coming out in November, or scheduled to come out in November.
Yeah, the movie comes out in November. The stories actually. Brad, you need to get that password lined up, because the first of the stories drops tomorrow, and then the rest of them all through this week. So, in theory, since you're going to be traveling to Austin to do the South by Southwest thing with me, this might be really good airplane reading material for you.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Oh my god, I'm literally working on it right now.
Come on, Griffin Witch, get your shit together.
Right? I can't even find the frickin' link to try and find my thing. I don't even know. This is too complicated to do while you're also podcasting, I guess.
You got tomorrow morning to figure that out.
Yeah.
I'll work on it. Oh my god, guys, South by Southwest coming up quick, right?
Yeah.
We're leaving Friday. What? So, coolness. All right, well, let's see. What do I have this week? I saw an awesome YouTube video. Typically, I'm not one to, report on a YouTube video as news. I don't think I've been this, excited about a fan-made film, short film, whatever, since the Power/Rangers short that came out last year. Yeah, last year. Yeah, so this one focuses on, it's called Darth Maul Apprentice, and it focuses on one of my favorite characters from the Star Wars prequel series. He was one of, 2 good things about the prequel series for me, and I just thought he was a badass villain. And this fan-made film by T7 Pro sort of fleshes out his backstory a little bit. Obviously, it's not canon because it's not an officially licensed product, but it's, the basic setup is Darth Maul's on this planet, he's in training, and a bunch of Jedi show up and they have a fight. Whatever. But it's actually really fucking dark, excuse my language. And, the choreography is amazing. The special effects are incredible. It's also entirely in 4K. So visually, watching it on my 5K iMac, I could count every single blade of grass that the lightsabers were chopping through, when they were rolling around. So visually speaking, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm tongue-tied today. I'm jumping literally from work to having an amazing grilled cheese Jim made to this. So. It's
the grilled cheese's fault. It's glued your tongue to the roof of your mouth.
Ready, Brad? You need New York, unique New York. You need unique New York.
Shut the fuck up. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, it's a pretty awesome film. I will say, though, it reminded me why when we saw The Force Awakens, I was so impressed by the lightsaber fighting because I'd forgotten how over choreographed, like twirling lightsabers for twirling's sake style that they take. This film is awesome. I really enjoyed watching it, but I'm kind of like, I'm glad this isn't what we're getting in the new movies. I know that sounds bad for something that I'm kind of championing, but I don't know. It was fun. You should check it out. It's called Darth Maul Apprentice.
Yeah,
Have you seen it, Will?
I haven't yet. I saw you post about it earlier, but just hadn't gotten around to checking it out. I love these types of things. There are some really talented people out there making some really interesting-looking fan films. There was that one a little while back that was it's like from this Versus series, and I think the one that got the most traction was like Darth Vader versus Batman. And it's just kind of a fan-made film, but it's so well done. You get to, for just a few minutes, immerse yourself in this kind of fun what-if type story. So I'm looking forward to checking this out. I love seeing like kind of what a kind of a young, hungry filmmaker can make with a little bit of talent and a property that they love. And hopefully then this person will be able to translate whatever they learned from doing this into whatever projects will help propel them into whatever career they want. So yeah, I'm really interested in checking it out.
And I'll be checking it out too at some point, just to see how the the effects that you talk highly about work on the screen. So, I'm always down for a good dark lightsaber battle like we got in the last movie.
There you go. Awesome. All right. Well, Jim, what have you got this week?
I also have a little bit of news related to Star Wars, actually. Speaking of The Force Awakens, one of the things we liked about that movie was, and we talked about on the show, was the diversity of the characters from that movie compared to some of the other movies. And J.J. Abrams, the director, has said, that when asked, he has said that, of course, the Star Wars universe could also include gay characters, which we really had not seen up to this point. The reason we talk about this is because there's been all this fan speculation about Poe and Finn and those characters specifically in the new movie. And JJ has said things like, and I'm quoting here, "To me, the fun of Star Wars is the glory of possibility. So it seems insanely narrow-minded and counterintuitive to say that there wouldn't be a homosexual character in that world." He said that in response to whether there is or will be a gay character in upcoming Star Wars movies. So then, to bring us to our news in this week, Mark Hamill suggested that Luke Skywalker's sexuality could be open to interpretation and possibly could be gay. And this is what he said, and I'll quote him here from his interview that he did with The Sun this week. He said, "I just read online that JJ is very much open to that," meaning, having a gay character. He said, "In the old days, you would get a fan email, but now fans are writing and asking all these questions. I'm bullied in school. I'm afraid to come out. They say to me, could Luke be gay? I'd say it is meant to be interpreted by the viewer. If you think Luke is gay, of course he is. You should not be ashamed of it. Judge Luke by his character, not by who he loves." So that's kind of, dancing around the question without actually coming out and saying he thinks Luke Skywalker is gay. Now, I'm not sure that I really think Luke is a gay character. In the original trilogy, right? He seemed to be attracted to Leia before it became known that she was actually his sister. The counter to that is she does remain the only woman he's ever kissed in the movies, right? As far as I know. So that kind of balances that out. And then there's also the current theory about Luke maybe being Rey's father in the new films. And that's been thrown out there. But again, the counter to that other counter is that being a father does not necessarily rule out being gay. So, so who knows, right? I mean, I don't know to put any stock in this, but it was fun reading some of the film blog sites today about this, especially some of the comments that range from basically into three camps, right? There's no one of which is this is no big deal. I'm glad they're leaving it open to that interpretation. I think it's a good thing, whether he's gay or not. And then some are just being bothered that Star Wars, people are discussing a gay Star Wars character. And then there are the brutally negative and homophobic comments that come from, if anybody who's read film blogs, especially the comment sections of some of these things, there's some real troll activity going on out there, and it can get pretty ugly. But I don't know. I think it was a good answer from Mark Hamill. I don't believe that he's saying that Luke is a gay character. I think what he's saying is that the character is open to interpretation, and the movie has kind of kept it that way, and that's a good thing. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting news. This kind of springs off of J.J. Abrams has been really looking at diversity in general recently. I mean, he's one of the few people. After the whole hashtag Oscars so white thing, a lot of people were like, "Yep, we should do something about that." They kind of left it there. Whereas J.J. Abrams was like, I kind of took this as a wake-up call for the industry as a whole and for what I'm going to be doing with my films. He has some interviews right afterwards where he's going to be kind of double down on diversity in his upcoming films, which is interesting because I would already say that, having like a black lead in Star Wars was already good job on you. You're ahead of the pack. And so the same thing with LGBT representation here. I think what's so great about this is that it's a very non-committal answer from Mark Hamill, but it's also a very positive one. He's not saying, yeah, Luke Skywalker is gay, or nope, he's not gay. He's saying, look, I understand that. I think part of the quote that I remember him saying was something about fans are writing and asking these questions. I'm bullied in school. I'm afraid to come out. Mm-hmm. And so all of that that part right there, he then answers back and says, yeah, if you think he's gay, of course he is. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. Judge Luke by his character, not by who he loves. I think that's totally fine. I mean, we may find out something in this upcoming movie that kind of helps move the needle one way or the other in terms of what dalliances he's had one way or the other. But as you mentioned, just having kissed your sister doesn't necessarily mean that you're straight or that you're gay. Having a child doesn't necessarily mean that you're 100% straight. We have proof on this podcast alone. It's very possible for someone to exist on the spectrum and still have children. So I'm really interested in this. I'm very excited about it. Even if it doesn't come to fruition, I love it as a thought experiment.
I think the most interesting question that nobody is talking about, though, is this. I mean, who cares about whether or not he's gay? The real question is, blonde hair, he's kissed his sister. Is he a fucking Lannister?
Nice.
Wait. And he's missing a hand.
Right?
Just like Jaime Lannister.
Just like Jaime Lannister. He's Jaime Lannister in space.
Oh God, I hope the Lannisters don't go to space. I'm happy with them existing just in Westeros.
And wait, a son had to. No, never mind. I don't want to get too much into spoilers.
This sounds like
I'm just saying the dad. They all had serious daddy issues, right?
Wait, keep going. I want to write some fan fiction based on this story, and I think you guys are giving me some great ideas.
It already has been written. It's called Game of Thrones. Somebody rewrote Star Wars and called it the Lannisters.
Fuck you, George R. R. Martin, for taking my idea way before I had it.
I could just see Tyrion in an admiral's hat being like, "The war for Cersei's Kent," Sorry.
Oh, God.
Sorry. I took it there. Anyway, Jim, to your original question, I don't care if he's gay or not. I care that he's a fucking Jedi. I care about what he's doing in the universe right now. I do think it's awesome that it's open to individual interpretation. I will say I wouldn't mind a little Poe and Finn, love story. but I think it's a weird line for these movies to walk. I think it's a precarious position, so to speak, to make any of them gay, only because Star Wars fans, I like to think they're progressive, but I was reading a lot of the comments as well, and I haven't seen that kind of homophobia outside of a Donald Trump rally in a long time. Oh my God, I went there.
Brad, politics.
I know.
No.
It came out. I haven't seen that kind of homophobia like related to Star Wars like that before. So I would be really interested if there is like gay subplot lines going on there to see what the translation to movie dollars would be. You know what I mean? So.
You're kind of making the case there for me for them. Like, I 100% want them to shoehorn in a gay character now. Like,
Right.
For the most part, like I want the sexuality of the characters to be inspired by the direction of the story and vice versa. Like, I want that to be very comprehensive. But the fact that we've got all of these trolls on the comment boards, like, who would be extremely pissed off if, like, they just saw, like, I don't know, yeah, like Poe and Finn or whoever, just like. Sharing like even the most brief of like man on man intimacies. I want that more now just to piss those people off.
Right.
Like,
let's watch.
Is that bad of me? Like, am I wrong for that?
I want like potential spoilers for the Kingsman. I totally want a scene of like all the internet trolls, like all their heads replaced with Star Destroyers that like explode with goopy fireworks.
I could see that happening.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I don't think they'd ever. I mean, obviously, I don't want them to. I don't want them to sexualize Star Wars at all. As a matter of fact, I kind of didn't really like the whole Luke Leia, bad attempt at a romantic relationship. It was kind of clumsy, and I thought it was kind of the weakest part of like the first couple movies. So yeah, I don't really like to see that. I want to see the space adventure, but for them to share, there's subtle ways that they could probably work it in if they wanted to. I just don't see anything overt happening or having overt, romantic or sensual, moments between two characters of the same sex, be they male or female. Yeah.
They could release a special edition, as they do with Star Wars, and just have like two 18 armed green aliens just butt fucking like crazy in the background. Like just kind of add them in post. That way we get our man alien on man alien action. But to your point, Jim, like the relationship between Luke and Leia was clumsy, yeah, but at the same time, the relationship between Leia and Han, I think, was one of the better parts of the original.
Agreed.
So it totally comes down to and I guess this is kind of what we were kind of saying before. Like, I don't want them to I literally don't want them to cram in like a gay relationship just because J.J. Abrams is feeling progressive. But I also want the writers of this universe to feel. If they've got fire in their script, like if they've got something where it'll work, the chemistry will be there, the energy will be there, and it'll translate well to screen. I don't want them to feel like they're hamstrung by, well, we can't do that because it might piss off the fans. I want them to do what'll work best for the story, whatever the sexualities may be.
Yeah, I mean, and that brings up, I mean, some of the worst moments in the series have been the hetero moments between like Anakin and Padme, right? I mean, that was kind of the low point of the whole Star Wars movie series to now, I would say. I mean, that stuff was pretty god awful.
Yeah, it wasn't that hot.
Yeah.
Not so much, really.
No.
All right. Well, I think that does it for movie news. Yes, would we agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So. This should be interesting. Zootopia. How about that? Yeah. So, for those of you who are new to our format, or just need a reminder, we will talk about the film spoiler-free for probably, 10, 15 minutes. We'll give you a fair warning before we go to spoiler down and ruin the movie if you haven't seen it. But here we go.
Always wrecking a good thing,
That's right. I'm going to wreck it. But here we go. Our discussion of Zootopia. All right. So, Jim, why don't you kind of give us the setup for this movie and whether you think it's worth checking out in theaters, renting, or avoiding altogether?
Yeah, so what we've got this week did make it out to the theater this week to see the latest from Disney Animation Studios. Their most recent film since Big Hero 6, I think, was the last feature film, and before that, Frozen was their big one. This one, though, is about a city called Zootopia, inhabited by anthropomorphic animals who have abandoned traditional predator-prey roles in favor of civilized coexistence. A young, naive, and uptight rabbit police officer named Judy Hopps, who is voiced by Gennifer Goodwin of TV's Once Upon a Time. I know, Brad, you watched that. She is forced to work with a charismatic con artist fox named Nick Wilde, voiced by Jason Bateman, who is in just about everything, to crack a major case involving the mysterious disappearance of some of Zootopia's citizens. So that's basically the plot synopsis that we got from, I don't know, IMDb or something like that. This movie actually had 3 directors, which is kind of strange. None of which are names that would be name recognizable necessarily. But once a couple of them have worked on movies that we would know. Byron Howard was the director of Tangled, another animated Disney Animation Studios property, I believe. Rich Moore, the director of Wreck-It Ralph. We just had a reference to Wreck-It Ralph a second ago. And Jared Bush, who this is his first director credit, but he also worked on Big Hero 6. So besides Gennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman, who I mentioned, other big names in this cast are like most major animated features these days, sprinkled with recognizable names. Idris Elba is in this one. J.K. Simmons, who we're seeing in almost everything these days. Tommy Chong pops up. Octavia Spencer, Alan Tudyk, and Shakira, right, is in this one. We'll talk about her a little bit later. This movie is fine. It's doing very well. I think there's not much here to let's say. The thing that's going to be talked about this movie is that it's a message movie. It's got some pretty relevant messages for today regarding inclusion, anti-stereotyping, anti-bullying, anti-racism and prejudice. So it's got some great messages in there for kids. Like most movies of today, it tries to walk that line and hit that sweet spot of being entertaining for adults as well as children. And I think this movie walks that line fairly well. And I think it succeeds, and is and because of that, I think it's going to be very successful. And so far, it really is. I think it's their biggest opening for a Disney movie in a long time, maybe ever. I don't know the stats on it, but it's humorous. It's got some laughs that both kids and adults, I think, will enjoy. It's got a very familiar, predictable plot. There's nothing surprising here. Similar to kind of a simplified James Bond film, I guess you could say. It's got a villain, it's got good guys, and it's got a central mystery that gets solved throughout the movie. It's a fairly busy film in that the plot moves along very well, and at a pretty good pace, scatters the jokes as it goes, and one of the strengths of this movie, I think, is the central relationship between the 2 main characters. I think works very well on the screen between Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde, the fox. I think the 2 of them as a duo, kind of doing their thing and solving the central mystery, and also discovering more about each of them individually as characters. I think that is probably the the bright star of this movie. Animation looked great. We saw it in 3D. I thought it looked fine. It was busy. The 3D itself, I don't know if I would say it's worth it, but it would, I think the animation and the world that they built visually, I think, came alive with or without, probably without the 3D, just as much as it did with the 3D. The message in this film that I mentioned before, I think it's it's pretty heavy-handed in the movie. Some people have called this, progressive, groundbreaking. I don't know if I see that. I've seen this message in other movies. It's done well here. I think this movie is a fine movie for families. And yeah, I'd say definitely, go see this one. It may be one of the better main studio animated movies this year. We'll see. It's still early in the year, but I think it's worth going out to see. What do you guys got?
So we've got a go see from Jim. Will, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna echo a lot of that. I loved this movie, and I wasn't expecting to. The trailers looked funny. It looked like I was gonna have an okay time, and that certainly the trailer that showed like the sloth sequence kind of gave me some hope. But I was actually kind of dreading that sequence when it came time to watch the movie. Like, all the trailers showed this one extended sequence, and I was like, "Oh, how is this going to play when I actually see it in the actual film?" And it actually played really well, even knowing it's coming. There are a lot of things that I liked about this movie. First of all, I saw this in 2D, so I can't speak to whether the 3D was good or whether it wasn't. I thought it was a very vivid, very brilliantly animated movie in 2D, and Jim, if you had not as solid an experience with the 3D, then maybe this is a...
No, that's not what I meant. I just meant that I don't think the 3D is a necessity in this movie.
Gotcha.
I think it would have played fine, as you're echoing, I guess, in 2D as it did in 3D. So if you're looking to save a few bucks, I don't think the 3D is a must.
Yeah, especially, and I guess for me personally, I'm kind of over 3D. Like, even for these animated movies, which usually were the ones that I saved for 3D, like, I feel like just more and more I'm just enjoying letting the colors pop as they are without having to see anything kind of artificial on top of the screen. Anyway, that's an aside. The other strength of this film, I think, lies in the voice acting. We have a really good cast here. The two leads, Gennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman, have ridiculous chemistry with one another. And I know that's kind of weird to say for animated characters. You're not getting all of those like body motions and like glances and things like that you'd get in a live action film. But there's just something that really works, something that feels very genuine about the way these characters interact with one another. Jason Bateman is a guy who I think he's at his best when he's doing just like really like just dripping smarmy, and we get a lot of that here. I think this is if anyone stole the show for me, it was Jason Bateman in the Nick Wilde role. There were some line deliveries that I thought probably would not have worked as well if they weren't delivered the exact way that he delivered them. Jim, you mentioned the themes. I think the themes on this work so well for me because while we've seen some discussion of like what it is, I'm getting too heavy into it, but there's a lot of talk in this film that kind of parallels a lot of what we see with like law enforcement and race, 90% of the population fearing the 10%, things like that are ridiculously timely for things that are happening in the news right now. And while we've seen some of those things before, I think that we're not seeing it outside of like really heavy dramas and documentaries. I don't think we're seeing it as much right now, the time when we really need to be talking about these types of things. So I like that this movie did tackle something that was some really heavy content, and did so in a way that, while it was maybe a little heavy-handed, it never felt extremely heavy in its delivery. In other words, like, I was still able to have a good time watching this movie. I didn't feel dirty or I didn't feel like uncomfortable afterwards. I had a good time while also exploring some of these dark areas. Yeah, this is a good movie. I think that this is the type of film, kind of one of those rare films that I can't think of anyone that I wouldn't recommend this to. Like, I like some weird shit sometimes, and it's like, yeah, if you like the exact same sliver of the pie that I do, then you like this. But I think this is a very good one for general audiences, from kids to adults. I think anywhere in between, I think you will enjoy Zootopia, hopefully as much as I did.
So 2 very solid recommends.
Yeah, I'm a little softer than Will's, but I'm in the recommend. It's a pretty broad spectrum recommend, I think.
Will I break the balance? I wonder. So it was cute, and that's about all I'll give it, I guess. I was not super impressed by this movie. I mean, I'm glad we saw it. I had a good time. I really enjoyed the Shakira stuff in the film. Specifically the tigers. We'll talk more about that later. But I mean, you know, Gennifer Goodwin as Lieutenant Judy Hopps and Jason Bateman as Nick. I mean, I bought their chemistry after a while. Initially, it was a little weird, but I mean, it was cute. I had fun with it. Every plot beat was basically super predictable, though. I mean, it's a kids movie, so bear that in mind, right? It's not like it's, you know, made specifically for adults. But I did enjoy, you know, Alan Tudyk showing up and J.K. Simmons, and you know, definitely lots of voice talent. Idris Elba. I didn't even know he was going to be in the movie, but then I heard his voice. I'm like, oh my God, it's Idris Elba. I loved it. But I just think, you know, I mean, it was fun. I'm glad I saw it, but it's probably not a movie like Frozen or Big Hero 6 or something that I would like deliberately go back and rewatch. You know what I mean? Like a year from now, I'll probably think about this movie and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was the one with the bunny, right? But I probably won't remember like a lot of the details. So it's not that it's a bad movie. It's just, you know, kind of run of the mill for me. Lots of better animated stuff out there, but maybe not yet this year. So
didn't trip your trigger then.
Oh goodness, no, not quite so much. And I have a hair trigger too, so that's
hair trigger.
God, no. I was ready for puns. I did the little description that we put on our Facebook page and put a few animal puns there, but I feel like hair trigger, like, I think that crosses a line, Brad. I think you've offended me on a deeply personal level with that.
You know what? Speaking of hair triggers and crossing lines, what do you guys think of all the furries being in a happy tizzy over this movie?
I think to each their own. Like, it's that's a community that I think gets joked about a lot, and I mean, I think we've even kind of in prepping for this episode at the end of last episode, we kind of like were joking about, like, you know, oh, the furries are going to be out in force, but you know, to each their own. I think, you know, if it trips someone's trigger, so to speak, then go for it. If anything, it helps this film's box office. If they find a movie to rally around, go for it. Yeah, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, in a couple spots, we talked about the message of this movie. There was at least one spot in the movie where, and we'll talk about it in spoilers, where it kind of, and it was a throwaway line, maybe they were going for something different, but it kind of subverted the message in several spots, I thought. One of the characters, let's just say the police receptionist character. Some of that was felt a little kind of stereotypy a little bit. And there was one other scene between Nick and Hopps, and we'll talk about that in spoilers too, where, you know, the central message was about understanding and not stereotyping, and yet there was one scene in there that I thought was kind of maybe overt stereotyping, but I don't know, Brad, you had a slightly different read on it. We'll talk about it a little bit later. So I think there was some mix, as strong as the message was in this movie, I think there were some mixed messages thrown into. but that might be just a nitpick against the movie, because I think the movie's heart is in the right place and its intentions. Will, I echo you on the voice casting. I love Jason Bateman in just about everything. Gennifer Goodwin is an actress that I don't really know that much because I don't watch Once Upon a Time, but I thought she was fine in that role. And of course, J.K. Simmons you can pick out anywhere these days, right? As soon as he starts talking, you're like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Idris Elba, same thing. There was one point, Alan Tudyk played one of the characters, and I thought it was, who did we think it was, Brad? It was... I
thought it was Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. It sounded
yeah, I could totally see that. Like,
Alan
Tudyk is one of those guys who I love it when he shows up in voice cast for something, because he is one of those guys who, I mean, he's a guy that we see in regular films. He's not just a voice actor, but he's able to change his tone and change his pacing and stuff the way a really talented voice actor would as well. He's a really good crossover artist in that regard. So, yeah, I was super excited to see him in this.
Mm. Yeah. Well, do we have anything else non-spoiler wise before we take a deeper dive?
We could, let me see, I'm not going to talk about our movie theater experience because that's just me going off on another rant again.
Go for it. Like, that's totally fair.
So I know this is a kids movie, and I know I'm going to get kids and doing kids things in movies, but man, one of my really bad pet peeves is when kids are acting up in a movie. They're obviously not interested in the movie at all. They're just interested in like randomly screaming or giving their parents a hard time. Yet their parents refuse to take them out of the theater. Like, there was this one kid, I don't know, maybe 18 months, 2 years old. Who's for me to say if a kid's going to be too young for this movie? But I don't think the kid had the attention span for it. He starts acting up in that way, screaming, distracting people. The dad goes to walk him out, but doesn't go out. He goes down to the bottom, section of the stadium seating area and proceeds to sit in another seat. And then he lets the kid, or we're in the front row, so we're right on the aisle that goes across the theater from left to right. And the kid's running back and forth, climbing up the stairs on all fours, and still screaming, and the dad refuses to take him out. I'm like, parents, look, if you're taking kids to movies and they're acting up, let them run in the hallway or outside, not in the movie theater where they're going to distract everybody. It's just not fair to everybody else in the movie theater. I'm sorry that your experiment to see if your kid can make it through a movie didn't pan out, but ruining everybody else's time isn't going to do it. So there's my rant.
Yeah, well, it's a good rant. Yeah.
It's so interesting though, Jim, because usually I'm the one that is like, "Rah!"
And you weren't.
But I'm like, it's a kids movie. There's going to be kids there being annoying kids. It wasn't bothering me that much. And like every 5 seconds, you're turning to me like, "You catching this shit? Are you seeing what's going on over here?" I'm like,
he's giving you the. Do you see?
I was this close.
Yeah.
I was this close to like saying something like, "Look, get your kid out of here. I'm going to get a manager to get him out."
I mean, it feels like if you're sitting in such a spot where the kids are running back and forth in front of you, it feels like you could have just put your foot out there, Jim, and like just let nature take its course.
Yeah, but there's a fine line between getting thrown in jail and
there's a fine line between being upset and assaulting a child. I get it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I fortunately did not have that experience. There were no screaming children, and to be fair, like that's a pet peeve of mine too, or just kind of in general, like when we saw the Jim and the Holograms movie, like there were like these like tween girls, and they were like, it was me and these 4 tween girls, like that were watching the movie, and they spent like the first half of the movie they would like run up and start playing tag with one another until I finally told them to sit the fuck down, and then they decided to. But yeah, it's annoying. So I totally get how that can dampen an experience.
Hey guys, guess what?
What's that?
We're gonna see like 40 films next week and not have to deal with kids at all.
Yeah, this is true.
Wow, that is good.
This is true.
Okay. Adult movie experiences are the best. Yeah, I don't mind. Look, I expect kids going to movies and like if they blurt out questions or Dad, what was that? But that's all fine, and they react to the movie. That's great. But when they're totally not interested in the movie and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, like
I'm done.
When we saw The Good Dinosaur, there are some emotional things that happened, and I was sitting kind of near a kid who was like, "Mommy, did this just happen?" And like kind of the things that are happening on screen. I had no problem with that because it was a kid trying to rationalize the things that were on screen. He was invested in the movie, and yeah, he was being a little loud, but he was doing it as part of a reaction to the film. That I get, but yeah, it does suck when they're like running and screaming, and like the parents are just like, "Not my problem."
Indeed. Well, I don't know that we'll go too crazy into spoilers, but I think we should definitely chat a little bit about them.
Yeah.
So, spoilers are officially fair game. I've made an executive decision. Hope it works for you guys. But we're doing it! Anyway, so this is your chance to hop away. Get it? If you haven't seen the movie yet and don't want your good time spoiled like a fox in the henhouse. Oh, get it? Anyway.
Keep them coming, Brad. You're on a roll.
Brad, this is why I drink.
Oh, I know. I just didn't want the show to move at a sloth's pace, so I figured I'd get things rolling. Anyway. Yeah, I know. So where do you want to start? I know where I want to start. The gay dancing tigers at the end during the gazelle number.
Funniest part of the movie.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was so funny. I loved that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's how about the let me see. How about the animal nudist colony?
Yeah. I have to say, like, this was a movie. You mentioned like funniest part of the movie with the tigers. This was a movie that like kind of consistently hit my funny bone. Like I enjoyed like the laughs that were coming like as they were coming in. This wasn't a movie that was maybe as like rapid fire in its joke delivery. It's like we talked in Kung Fu Panda, that one. That's very rapid fire delivery. There are a lot of jokes in this one, and for me, they mostly hit. Like I found myself like actually doing the thing where like I'm laughing out loud in a movie. That's fun. Like I'm part of the experience. Yeah, the stuff at the end with the little dancing sequence was really cool. The nudist colony definitely had me going. A lot of just the quips back and forth between Judy and Nick really worked well for me. Like there's this one line where it's just something very simple. Like Judy says, and I forget what the line is, but it's something about like you'd make a great cop, like very early on, and his line delivery back is supposed to say how dare you, and I think anyone else would have read that like how dare you, like actually reading it the way it's intended, but he plays it with this kind of this tongue-in-cheek like, oh, how dare you, and moves right on with it. I thought it was so fucking well done. One of the best, like, if I could say, voice acting 101, this is how you deliver a line expertly, I would show that clip. Like, I was taken back by how good that particular line delivery was. And that's
the difference between reading a line and putting something into the interaction, between the characters.
Yeah, knowing what the character is feeling as they're saying the line, as opposed to just saying the line. Like he was invested in that character's like growth all throughout the film, and that's hard in voice acting, because you're not actually in the same room as the other person reading their face and going through the motions. You're talking to a microphone. But Bateman did a stellar job here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, I wanted to hit on that the one, a couple of parts where the movie uses stereotypes to make its point, but it also uses stereotypes in other ways, which kind of runs counter to their point. One of which was, now they never actually came out and said this character was gay, but it was Claw, what was his name?
Clawhauser?
It was something. Anyway.
Yeah. Clawhauser.
Clawhauser. The receptionist cop, Cheetah, I guess, right? There was the fat stereotype, the donut in the lodged in his neck or whatever the heck it was. The food thing, with because of course all big guys have food issues, and then we have to get a laugh out of that. And then there's the one that really got me and kind of took me out was it was a quiet moment between. At one point in the movie, there's a rift between Nick and Hops, and then Hops has to come back and kind of apologize to Nick for something that she did, and she ends up crying, and he's like, now, there, you're something like,
you bunnies are so emotional.
yeah, you're all so emotional, you know what I mean, and it seemed like kind of almost like a sexist comment in a way. It was very strange, and it was supposed to be a moment that was hopefully subverting those expectations, but it didn't, and I couldn't explain it, and it took me out for a little bit out of the movie.
It's the whole. I mean, it's the whole thing of why he was upset at her to begin with was that she was stereotyping him for being a predator, right? And now he's stereotyping her for being an emotional bunny. I don't know. I kind of felt like maybe he was like joking at her as a means of, you know what I mean, like getting her back a little. But I don't know. It wasn't overt enough that I can for sure say, oh yeah, that's what it had to be.
But it was so emotional. Yeah.
Right. But it was a little weird for me too.
Yeah, for me, less so. And I think what worked so well about this movie for me is that it deals with an extremely complex issue, like what it's not just stereotyping in general, but just kind of the way that we inhabit these different strata in society and what it's like to exist in a different strata from someone else and all those interactions and stuff like that. What I love so much is that this film didn't make it easy. Like, I think that's what happens too often in some of these animated features is it's something like racism is bad, and so by the end of the movie, no one is ever racist again. In this one, there are a lot of power dynamics that shift back and forth. It's not just the predators that have these feelings about the prey. It's the prey that have these feelings about the predators. And in different parts of the movie, each one inhabits a position of power while the other one inhabits a position of weakness. And I liked that we got to see both ends at the giving end and the receiving end of the stick, and I think that there was some understanding that was had. But you even notice later on, and there's a sequence where Judy is a very, by all means, she's probably one of the more progressive characters in this entire movie. But she still panics at a point later on and kind of reaches for her anti-fox spray because some of those prejudices are so ingrained within her. I love this as a message for children, and that it's not trying to overly kind of paint the picture that, like, hey guys, let's just make racism go away. It's saying to me more like, hey, there's a lot of some deep shit out there that's going to take a long time for us to get over. And we may even fall back on some of these behaviors, but the idea is to always move forward even if we backslide a little bit. And that's what I like so much about this. Right. It let us play in the areas of gray instead of just making it black and white.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other things I wanted to mention was I did appreciate the fact of how they portrayed Judy Hopps as kind of a female character wanting to kind of break out of the mold, right? Even against what her parents kind of wanted for her, and her community thought, here, you're a bunny, you're supposed to be this farmer, and blah, blah, blah. Here you are wanting to be a cop. And I thought that was a good message there for kids, especially young girls. I mean, we've seen the, girl become a cop, movie several times, whether it's Melissa McCarthy or it's
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, right. Jodie Foster, or what's her name from My Brandis Crisis? Help me out.
Oh, Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock. Yeah, I mean we've seen that before, but to see it here in this kind of kids, family movie realm, kind of brought down to its basic elements, I thought was pretty cool the way they did that. I did like that character and how they kind of portrayed her journey from just kind of thinking outside the box and wanting to be something that really isn't expected of her.
Yeah, this is a female lead. Like, we see female characters in Disney movies, but when we see a female lead, it's usually a princess of some type. And I like that in this case, she's inhabiting I'm using air quotes for podcast listeners, she's inhabiting like a male space and dealing with the struggles there and ultimately thriving within it, too. I liked that quite a bit. Even movies like Big Hero 6, that one focused on kind of the male aspect of things, and while there were female characters too, they were very much support. So I loved that Judy got to be the main here, and I like that she has a male co-lead, and I think the two of them balance off each other in such a way that I don't think at the end of this movie you would look at either of them and think that the male or the female is stronger or more in control. No. You got to see how the two of them counterbalance one another.
Nor did it turn into a kind of happily ever after romantic relationship either, right?
Yes, they didn't fuck.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Disney, for not letting the fox and the rabbit fuck.
Well, it did. So I guess it does pass the Bunny Bechtel test.
It does, because of the scenes between the assistant mayor and Judy Hopps. They're both named characters who interact with one another about something other than a male. Passes the Bechdel test.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly. Well, guys, are we ready for plugs?
Sure.
Only if you can turn the plug transition into a pun too, Brad. That's your challenge. You got something for me?
Nothing beats capping off the show like discussing our plugs.
I'll take it.
Okay. All right. So I just want to real quick just mention something kind of cool we've been playing around with. We got a new drone a couple days ago, the DJI Phantom 3 Professional. It has a 4K video, can go up like 400 feet in the air and fly like 3 miles away. The reason I bring it up is I've really been getting into like drone photography lately, especially in movies. I've been doing a lot of research into like, shots in recent films that are done by drones as opposed to like a helicopter rig or something. And so I've been really interested in like maybe creating some cool like aerial photography movies, or maybe doing some panning shots for like a short film or something that we might want to make. So we had a chance to get this thing up in the air over the weekend at Roper Lake State Park here in Arizona. And while unfortunately they kicked us out of the state park because who knew drones can chop off little kid heads, we were able to go to these like dilapidated fairgrounds. And while that sounds like it might not be fun, it was actually really, really neat. We got some gorgeous 4K video, these beautiful like man-made bodies of water and trees and picnic tables, and it's pretty amazing. So kind of excited to see what kind of projects we can use it for. I also wish there was a little more information about where you can fly these things. But hey, if any of you out there are using drones in your film projects and have some tips for Jim and myself, feel free to email those to brad@moviebearspodcast.com because we would love to know how you're using your drone and maybe practice a little bit for ourselves.
Yeah, the worst part of drone flying is the fear that you have that you're going to lose it in, a body of water or crash it into something that irreparably damages it. So that's kind of the stage we're at now, is trying to learn to fly it without and make it do the things that it's capable of doing in a safe way without fearing that something bad is going to happen, like you're going to injure somebody. I mean, the worst mistake you could make is to go on YouTube and watch drone fail videos before you start flying a drone. Maybe it's the best thing you can do because it makes you cautious, but man, some of those are pretty horrible.
I've got a friend who does the drone thing. Like, he builds like little planes and little things.
RC
like
planes and stuff.
He's super good at this stuff. But when he got his first drone, we're at a house party, and he has this little like rig on his head that has like the camera, and he's in the other room. Says, "All right, guys, watch this." and this drone comes like flying down the hallway. It goes zooping right over our heads, straight into the ceiling fan, where it gets knocked around the room, and he comes running out like, "Oh shit!" So when you told your story just now about the drone, your fear of it, it's like, yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's fun. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it quite a bit.
It is
And if
fun.
it really does decapitate children, it feels like you might need to take it to the theater next time you're sitting in the front row and the kids just
Don't make me get out my drone.
chop 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 chop.
Oh goodness, indeed. Well, what else for plugs? Will, what have you got?
I saw another movie this weekend. It was part of my animated anthropomorphic creatures theme day, which was actually very accidental. So in addition to Zootopia this weekend, I saw a film.
Right?
No furry porn. That came later. No, I saw a movie that I've been wanting to see for a bit. It played at Fantastic Fest. I saw something else in that same slot, so I missed it. It's called The Boy and the Beast. And it's a Japanese animated film about this homeless kid named Kyuta, and he goes into this like imaginary world that kind of is in the alleyways of our main world, where he is taken in by a kind of this lonely bear person, like samurai, and is trained by him. It is a very cool. It's very action-packed. It's also very heartfelt. It kind of balances that line between wow, those scenes are really cool, and oh man, it's a little dusty in here. How'd that happen? And this is a new movie. It is in limited release right now, so it's called The Boy and the Beast, and you should absolutely go watch it. It's really cool.
Animated, you said, Will, right?
It is animated. Yeah, it's in that the anime, the Japanese animation style.
Yeah, I know, because you recently plugged a movie called Boy and the World, right?
Yeah, The Boy in the World was the it's more of a kind of experimental art from, I believe, was it Brazil or Chile? Anyway, and it was one of the ones up for best animated feature at the Oscars this year. This is a different one, The Boy and the Beast. This one was not up for any Oscars. Just it was up for making me super happy when I saw it yesterday.
Cool.
There you go. All right. Well, next week we will be coming at you guys live on location in Austin, Texas. I don't know if it will be in Will's dining room again, or if we'll find somewhere with reliable Wi-Fi that's not totally bogged down by a million people there. But definitely we'll be recording live. We'll have to figure out what our main review is going to be, but you guys can definitely expect some South by Southwest talk. So if you are not going to be at the film festival, fret not. We will give you some highlights, some things coming down the pipeline we think you may want to check out. But yeah, we will. We'll definitely see any of you who may be down there that maybe at the fest. Let us know if you're going to be there. We'd love to hang out, maybe chat in line, or if not in line, coming out of a movie or something.
If you see us, come and say hi, please.
Yeah, for sure.
We've made some great friends at South by.
Yes,
we totally have. We totally have, and definitely look forward to making more. So have a good week, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.